Alright, so earlier today, we had the Honkai Star Rail version 3.3 live stream, and there we finally got some info about Hyacine and Cipher's kits, since they are going to be the new 5-star characters coming in the update. So today, I want to give my thoughts on the information they gave us in the live stream, to kind of get my thoughts on their value, and whether or not they could be a good character to pull for. Now, like with all these post livestream videos, we don't officially have the full kits yet, so I'm just going based off of the few snippets that they gave us during the livestream here. So I definitely do recommend sticking around for the future closer to when these characters come out, because I will go over each of them more in depth once we have their entire kit available. So let's start out here with Hyacine, since she'll be the first one releasing. Hyacine is a Wind Remembrance character, and she is actually a healer, so not being tied to the abundance path like other healers, since she does use a memo sprite. So starting out with her skill here, I'm going to skip over the basic attack since there's no mechanic tied to it whatsoever. So with her skill, she's going to summon her memo sprite, Little Ika, and is also going to be able to heal all allies, which is a nice way to get some more HP for your team and get your health back. Then for her ultimate, has a similar effect as well, where you're also going to be able to summon Little Ika with this, obviously assuming that Little Ika is not on the field. And this will also heal all allies, I'm assuming by a higher percentage, but obviously we don't have the numbers for that just yet. But also with the ultimate, you are able to increase the max HP of all of your allies. I'm going to assume this is a turn-based thing, so after a certain number of turns, the HP will go back to normal. But this could be really good for characters that consume HP to get certain benefits. Characters like Casterus to get her ultimate, for Maide consuming his own HP to just get more of his charges. So this ultimate is actually going to work very well with teams that are going to be able to, benefit from HP drain as well, since you will have more HP available. Then to move on to Little Ika, they did show us one Memo Sprite skill and one Memo Sprite talent. I say one of each because sometimes these characters have multiple skills or multiple talents for the Memo Sprites, so we will see how many they have once we get the full kit for Hyacine, but I do want to start out here with the Memo Sprite talent they gave us, which is whenever any allies lose HP, Little Ika will consume a percentage of its own HP to heal them. And this is really good because this triggers on any kind of HP loss. Whether you're hit by an enemy, if you drain your own HP like Maide, if you drain your teammates' HP like Casterus or Jingliu, you're going to be able to heal up those allies. So this makes her healing extremely consistent. And for those teams, Hyacine's probably going to be the best sustain for them because she's able to heal them so well any time that they lose HP. Then the last part of the kit is the Memo Sprite skill for Little Ika. So Little Ika is able to deal damage to enemies based on the amount of healing given by both Hyacine and Little Ika. So because you'll get a good amount of healing, Hyacine will heal from the skill and ultimate, but then Little Ika will be able to heal off of that Memo Sprite talent as well. You're going to get a pretty solid amount there, as kind of like, obviously it's not going to be anything groundbreaking, but you probably will be able to get a decent increase in damage as long as you are doing a lot of healing, which if you're running Hyacine with an HP draining setup, then you should get a lot of healing out of it from Little Ika. So that is Hyacine's kit from what we know so far. So now let me talk about my overall thoughts on her. I think that Hyacine is going to be a pretty solid healer. I think her best spots are going to be alongside characters that drain HP, whether it's their own or allies. So characters like Casterus, Maide, and then also Blade and Jingliu I think are worth mentioning since they will be getting buffed in version 3.4. And I think Hyacine is also going to be amazing with those characters. I think that overall her healing, especially in these conditions, with those characters will be very consistent, which is a really good thing to make sure that you're able to stay alive in the endgame content. And overall, I think her value with these HP drain characters is really good. But even if you're not running them, but if you're someone who doesn't have at least 2 limited sustains, which I think is a good number to make sure that you can survive in the harder content in the game, I think that she still has really good value. But if you don't run these HP drain characters and you already have enough sustains on your account, she may not be necessary right now for you, but could be a character that I think could have a lot more value once a rerun comes later down the line. But all in all, I think she is still very solid, and I think a lot of players are going to benefit from pulling her. So next up, let's talk about Cipher. So Cipher is a quantum nihility character, which is always interesting because nihility characters I feel can go one of two ways. Either they're debuffers or they're dot characters, with of course Acheron being the exception. But Cipher does fall in line with the debuffer kind of archetype. So her basic attack just is a single target attack. You probably won't be using this too much unless you don't have skill points, but at the same time, you know, the main part of her kit is actually going to be through her talent here. So Cipher's talent allows her to apply a special state to the enemy that has the highest amount of HP at the start of battle. And this state can actually be moved to different enemies by using either her skill or her ultimate on a different enemy. And this special state is important because anytime any ally, including Cipher herself, damages this enemy with the state, you're going to be able to tally an amount of the damage that is dealt to them. And this will be good once we get to the ultimate as well. You'll see why this damage tally is important. But in addition, Cipher can also do a follow-up attack on the enemy that is in the special state. So that does give her a bit of extra damage as well, and some extra synergy when it comes to follow-up comps with Fei Xiao, which can also be really good. Next up for Cipher's skill, it is just a blast attack dealing quantum damage, so nothing really too crazy on that, besides the fact of with the talent, you can use the skill to move the special state to a different enemy, if there's a different enemy that you want to target. Then for Cipher's ultimate, it is a single target attack, but it will also do a secondary amount of damage based on the damage tally from the enemy in the special state. And the damage that this deals, not only is it blast damage, so it'll hit that main target and adjacent enemies, but it is also going to deal true damage, which is really good to just get some extra damage on them. And if you're able to stack up a good amount of damage from your allies as well, this could be a pretty solid amount of extra damage there. Then lastly, for Cipher's technique, you're going to be able to increase your movement speed, and also enemies won't be able to detect you. Now, they didn't really go into any in-battle mechanics, but I'm sure we'll probably get some kind of like stat boost or something like that. But again, we don't have the full kit info, so we will have to wait for that until it is closer to her release. So we still are a few weeks out from that. But overall, my thoughts for Cipher, I think she could be a very solid sub-DPS character in specific comps. And I think the two comps that she's going to work the best in are going to be for Acheron comps and Fei Xiao comps. Now, Acheron will be able to get a debuff when you do apply this state. I'm pretty sure it should count as a debuff, especially with Cipher being a nihility character. So that'll be able to work well. Plus also, Acheron can be very helpful in piling on a lot of damage onto a single target, since you do have a main target for a lot of her ultimate, which is the majority of Acheron's damage. And depending on what her traces are and other parts of Cipher's kit, there is also a chance that there are other debuffs on her as well that could make her a very solid option. But again, I'm going to cover that more once we get to closer to her release, when we have her full kit. As for Fei Xiao comps, I think just generally Cipher having a follow-up attack is going to be good. And depending on what kind of debuff she has, plus also I do have a feeling, just based on how Cipher is in lore, since I feel like a good amount of the time we do have some kind of lore relations for how kits work, I would not be surprised if Cipher does run pretty fast in terms of how much speed she has, which would mean she acts more, which means she can get more follow-up attacks off, given that the follow-up attacks will likely be once per turn for her. But nothing for that is confirmed. They didn't really say how the follow-up attacks are triggered outside of the fact that they can only be triggered on the enemy in the special state, so we'll have to see once we get that information. Now, I think in terms of her value, I think if you have Acheron and Fei Xiao, or one of them, I think that Cipher could be pretty valuable to get you a pretty solid sub DPS and just increase your damage overall. But if you don't have either of those characters or don't plan to use Cipher with them, I don't really see another comp that is going to be comparable in terms of value that can take the most advantage out of Cipher. But depending on what traces she has or other parts of her kit that weren't explained in the live stream, there's a chance that she may have some other comps that she'll fit into. But we'll talk about that when we go over her full kit. So that is everything for the live stream here. Definitely some interesting characters for sure, and I am excited to see what they can do once we get all the details. But I'd love to hear your comments down below, what you all think about Hyacine and Cipher. But with that, I want to thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed and want to see more from me, definitely be sure to hit that subscribe button. But with that, everyone, I will see you all next time.